Writers to so we are at the following action resolution portion of our narrative. And today we're going to be developing the following action resolution of our narrative by analyzing a mentor text and then mimicking the author's writing style. We're familiar with this. We've done this pretty much with every component of our plot structure except for climax, because the climax, we found the heart of the climax of our short story, and we stretched the heart of our short story by adding in dialogue, action, inner thinking, feelings, setting. So this, we're going to look at a mentor text. And we're going to look at Claudette Colvin. I loved this section of the text in Claudette Colvin because I thought that the author did a very nice job kind of wrapping up this section of the text, this particular section where they had shared with us that Claudette had a goal to fight inequality. And then she finally got to a point where she refused to give up her seat on the bus. And they wrap up this particular chapter with this paragraph where there's a very wise quote from the Reverend. But worried or not, I felt proud. I had stood up for our rights. I had done something a lot of adults hadn't done. On the ride home from jail, coming over the viaduct, Reverend Johnson said something to me I will never forget. He was an adult who everyone respected, and his opinion meant a lot to me. Claudette, he said, I'm so proud of you. Everyone prays for freedom. We've all been praying and praying, but you're different. You want your answer the next morning. I think you just brought the revolution to Montgomery. And so when I read this, what I noticed is she's kind of reflecting on her experience. But worried or not, I felt proud. I stood up for our rights. She's reflecting back on, because at 4 years old, she learns that you can't touch a white person. And now she's 15 and she's reflecting back and thinking, I'm proud of myself. I did it. I did it. It wasn't easy. I did something a lot of adults had not done. She's on a ride home from jail. And an adult who she respects tells her that you're brave. And I think you just brought the revolution to Montgomery. And so when I look at that particular chunk of text, I want to think about theme, because one way you can wrap up a narrative is by kind of quietly weaving in theme. You can either just say it, or you can kind of quietly weave it into the narrative. And in this case, the author, Philip Hoos, quietly weaves in the theme. And I'm looking at the different types of theme here. Where we have growing up. Growing up is a great time in life. Growing up is a challenge for everyone. It takes a village to raise a child. I don't think that matches up very well. It takes a family to raise a child. Good communication between generations leads to satisfaction, understanding, better relationships, cooperation. I don't know if any of those fit very well. I'm going to keep reading to see if one of the theme topics under ambition is a better fit. Too much ambition leads to negative results. Definitely not. One needs ambition in order to succeed. Hard work can bring a great reward. We grow small trying to be great. Goals are dreams we convert to plans and take action to fulfill.
That one, right? Does that one stand out, especially with what she says? Yeah.
I agree. Goals are action, our dreams we convert to plans and take action to fulfill. And what I notice is when Philippus says when Claudette says I had stood up for her rights, she took action. And the Reverend tells her, I'm so proud of you. Everyone prays for freedom. We've all been praying and praying, but you're different. You want your answer the next morning. And I think you just brought the revolution to Montgomery. And I really feel like the Reverend is telling her right there in his own way, you had a goal, you converted it to a plan, and you took action. So we're going to try this. I'm going to share with you what we developed yesterday with the climax. And when I share this climax with you, we're going to follow up with looking at some possible theme ideas that would fit with my narrative. And using that theme idea, we're going to kind of finish up the narrative here. I'm up, wiggling my way. Whoops. I begin the process of sitting upright. I'm up, wiggling my way out from under the blankets. I gently place my feet on the ground. Get moving, get moving, get moving, I silently murmur to myself. As if in slow motion, I shuffle my way down the hall and tiptoe down the stairs. Follow me, darling, I whisper. She quickly hops off the bed and trots down the hall and down the stairs. Darkness surrounds me, so my fingertips brush the handrail as I follow Denali safely to the bottom of the stairs. I hear the coffee maker and smell the delicious scent of coffee before I enter the kitchen. Gurgle, gurgle, pop, gurgle, gurgle, pop. Within 5 minutes, I am relaxing in the back room with a hot cup of coffee and watching American Housewife. So knowing that my goal is I want to wake up without pressing snooze 15 times. And this is the result. I finally do get up. It's not perfect, but it works. I have to I'm going to look at my list of possible themes here. I'm going to read through them. And I want you to also follow along as I read through them because maybe you can help me pick a theme here. Perseverance, never give up. Try again. When you come to the end of your rope, tie a knot and hang on. No. The race is not always to the swift, but to those who keep on running. No. To protect those who are not able to protect themselves is a duty which everyone owes to society. It is better to light a candle than curse the darkness. Our duty is to be useful, not according to our desires, but according to our powers. Are any of those a good fit?
There might be one that I could see.
I think that maybe try again.
That could possibly.
That one could fit.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to stop there. I'm going to look at others. I'm going to go with happiness, the theme of happiness. Enjoy life while you can. Happiness is not what you want. It is wanting what you have. Happiness is not a station you arrive at, but a manner of traveling. The grand essentials of happiness are something to do, something to love, and something to hope for. Happiness depends upon ourselves. To ease another's heartache is to forget one's own. Something doesn't have to be perfect. It can be good enough. Do any of those fit? Anybody at home, do you think any of those fit theme-wise? I know Braun has an idea.
Dayton has an idea.
Ashton has an idea.
Those of you else in here, does something stand out pertaining to her narrative?
Brian, is your hand up? Brian has an idea, so does Addison.
Kaden, do you want to share what you were thinking?
The last one. Brian, what would you say?
The last one.
Addison?
The last
Brian?
one. The second to last one.
The second to last one. Anybody else? Ashton, what was yours?
The last one.
The last one. something doesn't have to be perfect, it can be good enough. To ease another's heartache is to forget one's own. That was the other suggestion. Well, whenever I look at this list, this one really stands out to me. That something doesn't have to be perfect, it can be good enough. This last one, something doesn't have, I like try again. But what I like about something doesn't have to be perfect, it can be good enough, is the fact that I'm trying to change my routine, but eventually it's not working, and I just have to come to terms with it and accept it and say it's not perfect, but it's good enough for me. And so I want to take this theme and weave it into my narrative. But before we can do that, before we can dive into writing out the resolution and the following action and the resolution, all of us need to take a look at that theme document that I shared in Google Classroom. It looks like this. And I want you to look through that theme document and see if you can find a theme that falls in line with your narrative, that matches up. The bold words are kind of grouping similar themes together. And so then you would just read through that list, and if you find one,
We want you to share it.
I'm gonna do it. When you find one, then you can add your theme to a Jamboard that I'm creating right now.
Be sure to read through all of them. And we do want everyone to choose one. Yes.
Isabella, yes, one for your narrative. Those of you who are in here, you'll have to go to our Tuesday assignment and get the Jamboard link from the comment section of our Tuesday assignment.
If there's anybody struggling to find one, please just let Mrs. Leisking or myself know in the chat box or in a Google Hangout. Because we are looking for everyone to find one and to have it within their narrative. No, Peyton, if you have a different theme and it's not listed, absolutely, you can use your own. Good question.
So Peyton, then, but still add your theme to the list, to the document though. even if it's different from something that is on the list? Yep, I can redo the Jamboard.
So never give up. Enjoy life while you can. Hard work can bring great reward. Don't cry over spilt milk. And never give up or try again. Beware of strangers. Ooh, that's an interesting theme. I'm curious about that narrative.
Oh, look at, they're just dropping in so fast right now. It's okay to lose. We all have our faults, but we have to learn to accept others. Nice. Non-human animals deserve protection. Nice. This is looking fantastic. About 30 more seconds. Okay, so I'm not going to change. I'm gonna leave you as editors on this document, but please, we don't want to clear it. I want to leave this here so people can continue to add, because I know some people need a little bit more time. But what I want to do right now is return to our lesson. So pause your work with the Jamboard.
Those of you in here, 45 your screen.
Pause
you.
your work with the looking for theme, because we're going to give you time to continue that if you need it.
Thomas, 45.
So step one is that you had to find a theme that works with your narrative, a life lesson that works with your narrative.
Positive does something different.
That's step one. So most of us have step one complete because we found a theme that fits with our narrative. Step two is then kind of mimicking author craft, where Claudette or Philip Hoos wrote about how she was at a point where she'd had enough, and she decided to take action. And the Reverend, a person she respects, complimented her for being brave and taking action. And so I decided to mimic that to the best of my ability. So I have my first part where I'm get moving, get moving, get moving. I silently murmur to myself. I begin the process. I hear the coffee maker and smell the delicious scent of coffee before I enter the kitchen. Gurgle, gurgle, pop, gurgle, gurgle, pop. Within 5 minutes, I am relaxing in the back room with a hot cup of coffee and watching American Housewife. Now, the last little bit of text is where I really want to weave in that idea that it doesn't have to be perfect. It can be good enough. But I just can't say, so life doesn't have to be perfect. It can be good enough. I can't just end it that way. That's too easy. So I want to use detail, dialogue, action, inner thinking. Within 5 minutes, I am relaxing in the back room with a hot cup of coffee and watching American Housewife. Burrowing into the recliner, I process why waking up in the morning is so difficult. Multiple alarms do not help me pop out of bed. The mental pep talk is worthless. Even though I put forth significant effort to wake up early and on time, I continue to sleep past my alarm. Maybe this is part of my chemical makeup. Chronic oversleeper. Eventually, I wake up and always arrive earlier on time to work. remembering advice from my mom, I realized that I always have to be thoughtful about the battles I choose to pick. Is this really a battle I want to pick with myself? It doesn't have to be perfect. It can be good enough.
So I see you have action in there. You're burrowing, you're processing while waking up. You added inner thinking. Lots of inner thinking. And then your realization and your theme.
And for some reason, that thing's not at the very end. So if I look at this, I really tried hard to weave in those the details so that it comes across that it doesn't have to be perfect. It can be good enough. And so I missed adding that. I missed adding that in. I realize it doesn't have to be perfect. It can be good enough.
You know, something I noticed in her paper as well is she's used a transition phrase in there. I process this. Maybe this is part of my makeup, even though. So as you start to wrap up your narrative and kind of weave in that theme, think about those transition words that will lead into it. So in the end, I learned. All in all, my experience was. So be thinking of those transition words to kind of help flow into telling the reader essentially what you learned and what your theme was.
I process was another one. So 7th grade. What I did here is I worked really hard to kind of use inner thinking, to use maybe some action to share ultimately what I've learned along the way. And I did weave in that theme that I pulled off of the theme list. So now it's your turn to take your theme, the theme that you have identified that seems to work for you, and using dialogue, using action. I'm gonna wrap up. Sure, I realized.
All in all,
I've
I
come
learned.
to the conclusion.
In the end.
Would you like me to add some of those phrasing on the board for you? Those transitions, I realized suddenly.
All right. So 7th grade, in here and at home, give us a 1 in the chat box or a 1 in class if you are ready to weave your theme in. Okay, so not everybody. Okay. And then those of you at home and in here, put up a 2 if you are still working through your draft. And it's okay if you are. If you're still working through your draft, yep, a couple of us are. So those of you that are still kind of getting your draft, just make sure that at some point you weave that your theme, your life lesson in. Are there any questions?
Okay, well, what I'm doing here is I'm just going to add some of those transition phrases that you can use. Philip Hoos used them. I use them. So I'm just going to add them here for you to use so that when you're working on wrapping up your narrative, weaving in theme, that you can utilize some of the transition phrases that authors typically use. And we're going to take about 15 minutes to work on developing our resolution, our following action and resolution. And if you are at home and you want to, and you're logged in and everything's working fantastic, great. If you're at home and your computer's lagging and you need to log off to work in this document, then be back at 8:45. Be back at 8:45.